Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the Starline by a storyteller, award-winning journalist, author, speaker, and musician on the hunt for the big story. Her latest podcast for you to binge is Big Sugar. We welcome from Maryland, friend of the program, Celeste Headlee.
It's good to talk to you again.
Celeste, let's return beyond the mic. Last time we talked, it was about a 50-year-old cold case. But now you're back to talk about sugar.
Yeah.
Why is the secretive multi-billion-dollar industry now in your crosshairs?
So this actually is also, this is a 20-year-old court case, but it's ongoing. You know how there's kind of been a reckoning for first tobacco and then the pharmaceutical industry? It is time for the reckoning for the sugar industry, which is another massive industry that is cloaked in secrecy, that has manipulated the science of what we know about sugar, that has totally manipulated the labor industry and wages, that has massive handouts from the government. It is time for all of this to be revealed to the public and for there to be a reckoning.
You have 9 episodes to break down an industry that has alliances, associations, and special interest groups trying to keep something from the public.
Yeah.
How has Big Sugar accomplished pulling back the curtain on an industry very few people know a lot about?
Let me tell you how powerful these barons are. One of the scenes in this podcast is President Bill Clinton. He's in the Oval Office and he's breaking up with Monica Lewinsky, and he's told his aides, "Do not disturb me." And one of his aides calls in and says, "Mr. President," and he says, "I told you not to disturb me." And he says, "It's Alfie von Hool of U.S. Sugar." And President Clinton says, "I'll take that call."
Wow.
That's how powerful these sugar barons are. Just to give you an idea, they pour so much money into both sides of the aisle, both the Democrats and the Republicans, and have for so long. That is why they get billions from taxpayers through the U.S. Farm Bill, which only comes up for reauthorization every 4 years. This is one of those years. That's what makes it so important that people listen to the podcast, understand what's going on, and then call their representatives. They get billions in handouts from the federal government. And then we as taxpayers then go to the store and pay more for our sugar than almost any other developed nation. So tell me how that makes sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Between $2.4 and $4 billion in subsidies are paid out to the processors. Will this examination of Big Sugar potentially affect a farm bill?
I really hope so. There's no reason why this needs to continue. It's corporate welfare at its worst. This program started in World War II because they wanted to make sure that people were producing enough sugar that we didn't have to depend on foreign governments. And come on, they're going to continue to grow sugar. It's not like sugar is not a profitable crop. There is a demand for sugar. We don't need to incentivize people to grow sugar, so we don't need to be paying them money to plant it. We don't need to incentivize the growing of sugar. There is no reason to be paying them money to guarantee that they get a certain amount of money for planting sugar. And by the way, we're subsidizing in another way, which is that the environmental practices of these companies means that they're burning down these fields in order to save money. And then we're paying for it because they're polluting the Everglades, they're polluting the neighborhoods where they grow. And then we pay for that cleanup when we then have to deal with climate change and the other things. We're also subsidizing it because often the wages are very low for many of these workers, and they're, we're paying for many of these H1N1 workers that they're bringing in from overseas. That's one of the things we focus on as well.
We're joined by award-winning journalist Celeste Headlee. Her latest podcast is Big Sugar, and she joins us for the Rocking 8. Celeste, you know what this is. It's 8 random questions. Answer with the first thing that comes to mind. There's no pressure.
Okay.
Has the way you drank your morning coffee changed since you started doing Big Sugar?
I actually sampled Vietnamese coffee, and they grow a different bean in Vietnam, which I did not know. I think it's called Rotundo, and please correct me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And I had no idea it tasted so different. But it does. It also has significantly more caffeine than the Arabica bean that we mostly drink in the United States and in most across Europe, and it tastes delicious. So, I mean, I don't drink it every day, but yeah, I've tried Vietnamese coffee and like it.
Last opera performance of yours was of what piece?
The last opera performance of mine was of an aria from Romeo e Giulietta, by Donizetti.
Best thing on the menu at the Stanford Grill in Rockville.
So I had the baby back ribs, which were delicious. Yeah, and with some charred broccoli, which was also very delicious. Calamari was great too.
We've talked on 10 ways to have better conversations. So what's number 11?
Okay, so number 11 is so number 11 is probably let me think about that. Number 11 is probably to stop branding yourself.
Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon continues with question 5, the Rocking Age. I couldn't help myself. Favorite podcast that isn't yours?
My favorite podcast that is not mine. Gosh, that's a really, really good question. I listen to too many podcasts. Let me think about that. I listen to Retro Report, which is like an educational one where they kind of dig into the history of really common things, and I really like. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I also listen to Hidden Brain, which digs into sociology studies, and that's one of my favorite ones as well.
Of immigrant labor, visas, healthcare, the environment, which is the biggest issue media isn't talking about enough these days?
Probably healthcare.
You said once, quote, you must have the integrity to stand by your reporting, unquote. What was the topic of a story someone wanted you to write, but the facts just didn't add up?
A story I wanted to write, but the facts didn't match up. That's a really great question. I think it was probably, I think it was the one where there was an introductory study showing that conservatives are less likely to take risks or more stuck in their ways. And it turned out that got a little bit debunked. The brain science on the difference between Republican and Democratic brains is just not there yet.
A newspaper in Kansas was raided. What's your one sentence answer on solving the current attack on journalism?
Make it nonprofit. Yep. 0.5% of private donations would solve our journalism problem and protect democracy.
It's time for One Big Question with podcaster Celeste Headlee Beyond the Mic. Her podcast is Big Sugar. You've talked to the Jamaican sugar cutters, and their story changed your life and your soul forever. What's the message you want to get out with Big Sugar?
There are people cutting the sugar for you. That's true of all of our food. The food that comes to your table represents people bringing it to you. And I just want people to remember that. That represents people's hands and their work every day.
She loves baby back ribs, a good cup of Vietnamese coffee, and wants you to listen to Big Sugar. Celeste Headlee, thanks for taking the time to talk with us again.
Always a pleasure, Sean. Thanks.
And that, my friends, is a Beyond the Mic shortcut. If you're enjoying these conversations, please check out another Beyond the Mic episode to find more actors, artists, and people you need to know. We'd also appreciate a like and subscribe on the Good Pods app.